Your house is probably worth more than it has ever been, and yet you still feel stuck. Maybe you've outgrown it, maybe the kids are gone and it's too much house now, or maybe you just drive past a place in Winter Park or Baldwin Park and think, yeah, that's the one. But then you do the quiet math in your head. Today's interest rates, what your next payment's gonna look like, the big hassle of all of it, and you talk yourself right back out of it. So here's the real question, and it's the one this whole video is about. Should you sell your Orlando home in 2026, or should you wait? I'm going to walk you through the honest version of that answer, not the now is always a great time to sell version. That's complete BS. The real one, including when the right move is to not move at all. I'm Chad Gibson with the Dreamtown Homes Teams at LPT here in Orlando. I lived here about 16 years. I come from a teaching background, and honestly, that's still how I like to work. I'd rather teach you than talk you into anything. First and foremost, I am not here to list your house. I'm here to help you evaluate your options, plain and simple. By the end of this, you'll be able to make this call on your own with clear eyes instead of that knot in your stomach. We're going to cover 4 things today: where the Orlando market is actually right now, the real reason you feel frozen, the only math that actually matters, and the ways to move that most people don't even know exist. So let's get right on into it. Let's start with what's true, because most of what you're hearing is either national news or somebody's sales pitch. And Orlando, it's its own market, and right now it's doing something very specific. First, prices. Home values here are still near record highs. They basically flattened out, so we're not seeing the big jumps of a couple years ago, but we're not seeing a crash either. Depending on whether you look at the metro or the city itself, the median sits somewhere in the high 300s to around $410,000. The equity you've built is still very much there. Second, interest rates. The 30-year is hovering right around 6.5%. Not the threes we've got spoiled by a few years ago, but, and this does matter, not some scary new number either. Orlando bought and sold plenty of homes at these rates the last couple of years. Third, and this is the big shift here, homes are taking longer to sell than they were a year ago, and more sellers are cutting their prices. A year ago, a well-priced home flew off the market. Today, it still does sell, but it sits a little longer, and the buyer has time to think, inspect, and negotiate. Inventory's up too. Buyers simply have more to choose from than they did before. So when you put these 3 things together, near peak prices, a slower, pickier market with higher rates, it's not a seller's market screaming at you, hey, it's time to list. It's not a buyer's market either. It's a market that rewards sellers who price right and have a real plan, that's important, and punishes the one who throws a number on the wall and just hope it's going to sell. And I'll tell you, they're in for a shock. So quick gut check before we go on. If you list your home overpriced today, it will sit, it will go stale, and you'll end up chasing the price down anyway. I see it all the time. That part matters so much here in 2026. Okay, here's the part nobody says out loud. The reason you feel stuck usually isn't your house. It's your mortgage rate. If you bought a refinance a few years ago, you might be sitting on a 3% loan, and that low rate feels pretty good. Feels like a treasure that you're not allowed to give up. People call it the locked-in effect, and I'll be honest with you, yeah, it's a real thing. It's the single best reason most move-up sellers in Orlando stay put. So let's say the quiet part out loud here. Why would I trade my 3% for a 6.5% mortgage rate? That is crazy. Well, here's the reframe. You're not protecting that rate. What you're protecting is a payment on a house that you already said you've outgrown. The rate is only one number in a much bigger equation, and sometimes holding on to it is costing you the actual life that you want. The garage you need, the school zone you want for your kids, the single-story house so you're not killing your knees in 10 years climbing upstairs, the neighborhood that you actually love and want to live in. So I'm not saying the rate doesn't matter. It really does matter. I'm saying it's a factor. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's not a life sentence. And I'm not preaching at you here. I've personally lived this. I left a 2.5% rate and took a 5.99 to buy the home I actually wanted in a neighborhood I absolutely love This is my forever home. On paper, it looked a little crazy, but that low rate was never going to live in the house for me. I haven't second guessed it once. If rates come down later, I can always refinance, but what I can't get back are the years that I spent sitting in the wrong house waiting. Now the math. And I want to be really clear about something because this is where most people get it wrong. The number you're probably fixated on is what your home is worth. That's the fun number, but it's not the number that decides this. The two numbers that actually matter are what you'll net when you sell and what actually lands in your bank account, and then what your next home really costs at today's rate. You have to look at both sides together or you're just taking a guess. So let me walk you through a simple made-up example so you can see the shape of it. These are round hypothetical numbers to illustrate the method. Your real numbers, of course, are going to be different, and that's exactly what a conversation is for. So say your home would sell for around $600,000 and you still owe $250,000 on your mortgage. You need to take out the selling costs and a little money for preparation, and you're left with somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's say, $310,000. That right there is your net, what actually lands in your pocket, not the 600, the 310. Now watch what that does on the buy side. Say your next home is $700,000. You take that $310,000 and put it as a down payment. Now you're only financing about $390,000, not the whole $7. And at today's rate, financing $390,000 feels a whole lot different than financing $650,000. That gap is your equity doing the heavy lifting. Here's the insight right underneath it. All that equity you've built, it doesn't disappear when you move. It walks across the street with you and becomes your down payment on the next place. A big chunk of equity can often soften a higher rate more than people expect because you're financing a smaller amount to begin with. And just as a note, when we run your real net together, I want you to see every single dollar, not a guess. So the honest takeaway from the math chapter, don't let the rate scare you off before you've actually seen your net and your real next payment side by side. 9 out of 10 times the picture in your head is a lot scarier than the picture on paper. Now, the objection I hear most is, Chad, I'm not going to sell my house and then be homeless. Where do I even go? That's a totally fair question. So let me show you the moves because this is where having someone who actually knows the options can change everything for you. First is kind of the chicken and egg problem, right? Do you buy first or do you sell first? Most people feel trapped between the two. There's a program I use called Knock. It is a type of a bridge loan, works a little bit differently, that lets you buy your next home before you sell your current one. You move on your timeline, you get settled in, and then sell the old place. It's empty, show ready, and you're not living through showings with your house needing to be perfect every single morning. You get to avoid all that stress. That alone takes the panic out of it for a lot of my move-up sellers. Second, the my house needs work before it'll sell for top dollar problem. Well, I have a program for that too, and what it does, we take care of the prep, the paint, the floors, kitchen refresh, whatever moves the needle, and all of that gets paid back at closing. You don't need to write a check up front. We invest in the right improvements, the home shows better, it comes out of the proceeds at the end. And third, the bigger idea behind all of it is I don't believe there's one way to sell a house. There are many different ways. Some people want absolute maximum price, and they're willing to give it the time on the market to do so. Some people want speed and certainty, a guaranteed sale, fast, as is, even a cash offer, and they'll trade a little price for a total peace of mind. And some want competition on a firm timeline, almost like an auction where buyers bid up each other by a particular deadline. The truth is, none of these is better than the others. They're just built for different goals. So when we sit down, I don't start by telling you what to do. I start by asking what matters most to you right now. Is it the most money? Is it the fastest sale? Do you want the most certainty? And then I help show you the path that's built for that. Now, let me do the thing most agents won't and tell you when you should not sell, because sometimes waiting really is the smart move, and you deserve to hear that too. If you genuinely love your home and you're just reacting to noise online, you should stay. Don't move for a feeling that'll pass. If you'd be selling into something you haven't planned for and you'd be financially stretched on the other side, I think you should wait. And let's build a plan first. I bought a home once at the very top of what I was approved for many years ago, and a few weeks later the AC died and I hadn't saved for it. So I know what house poor feels like, and it sucks. I will never talk you into that. And if your only reason to sell is to chase the market and time it perfectly, I can't help you there because nobody can time it perfectly, including me. Real estate rewards the person who moves for a real life reason, not the person trying to outsmart the market. So waiting is a completely valid answer. The point is not to sell. The point is to make the decision on purpose with clarity, with real numbers in front of you, instead of letting another year go by default. That's how you decide whether to stay or sell. All right, so should you sell your Orlando home in 2026 or wait? Shouldn't be a surprise here. It depends on your net, your next payment, and your reason for moving. And if you can't answer it from a video, including this one, you answer it by running your actual real numbers. That's the thing I can do for you without any pressure at all. We'll sit down for about 30 minutes. I show you what you really net, what your next move would actually cost you, whether something like knock or my rehab program fits. It may not. And which way to sell makes the most sense for your goals. And if the answer is you should wait, I'll tell you that, and you'll have lost nothing. The link to grab a time is right below in this video, and it's in the description. No obligation, no sales pitch because I hate sales pitches. Just clarity on your options. If this helped you, consider subscribing so the next person sitting exactly where you are right now finds it too. I'm Chad Gibson, and whatever you decide, let's make it the door to what's next. See you in the next one.